We have a special fireside chat that also joined us fairly late in the process here, but we feel so fortunate. I had this wonderful conversation with someone I've actually known for a while, and through the pandemic, you get disconnected and then you get reconnected. And Amazon's a big company. There are a lot of different companies. Any of us that do business with Amazon know that it's, you've got the Alexa group, you've got the AWS group, you've got the Amazon.com group. It's a complex company with lots of ins and outs. And we've been fortunate to do business with Amazon over the years. But this guy has taken the time to really tell me a lot more about how Amazon works. And I was so grateful to just take it in and learn. And he cares. He's brought, I think, 26 or 27 people from the AWS team here to Voice and AI this year to be a part of this community and be a part of the growth. And I am just so grateful. I want to bring up our next fireside chat, Vikram Modgil and Jennie Tietema. Come on up, please. Thank you. Thank you, Victor. Thank you. Thanks, Jennie.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us, Pete. Jennie.
All right. Cross over.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, Pete. I think first thing I want to just do is ask you all to please congratulate the team for putting such a brilliant show. I think we are probably the last panel here. So amazing job, guys. Really appreciate it, and pleasure to be here, actually. So thanks so much for the time. We've had some really interesting conversations over the last few days, and I think the topic of this track is about the future of digital interactions, but I think the people here in this room, plus those who are watching us online, a lot of those who we've had a pleasure of interacting, they're not just predicting the future, they're also inventing the future. So thank you, all of you, for building what you're building in this space, and we're very excited to share some of the questions that we've got during our interactions in the last few days. And I will start with initial few questions, but I think first question that I wanted to ask Jennie is just about her background and journey at AWS. She's part of our leadership team at Amazon Chime SDK. So Jennie, just a few words of quick introduction.
Sure. So I joined AWS 8 years ago this month. So I've definitely been on a journey. Joined via an acquisition early on, and then have just seen the growth of Amazon and AWS in this communication space, and it's just been really exciting to talk to customers along the way and hear what their journey has been like on AWS, specifically in digital transformations and within the communication space. So,
yeah. Great. And what are some of the innovative problems that you've been solving for the last few years with Amazon in voice and AI space?
I think it's less about the innovative problems that we've been solving and more what we've seen customers do. One of the things that we talk to customers about is, how can we speed your time to innovation? How do we help you go faster? And we use this concept called undifferentiated heavy lifting to talk about there are so many different things that companies have to do on their customer journeys. And how do we help take some of those things that, quite frankly, are really big and complex problems, but they're not necessarily the differentiated piece of the customer journey? How do we, as AWS, really focus on helping our customers, whether it's in the communication space or the compute space or all of those different pieces, put fundamental building blocks and pieces together to get them onto their journey faster? And that journey for them is that differentiation. We believe that our customers know their customers better than anyone else. And so if we can help in those innovation paths and help our customers get there faster, those are, I think, where the innovations come from, is that better together story of meeting our customers where they are on their customer journeys and really trying to help solve sometimes not the super glamorous innovative problems, but really free our customers up to do that innovation.
Great, great. And I think this is another question at top of mind. A lot of people asked us this. How is it easier or challenging to embed voice and AI into existing systems. There are a lot of legacy systems out there and lots of challenges. So how can they start, or how can they infuse AI/ML in their existing systems?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that comes from getting the data in a single place. There are so many disparate sources of data out there today, and there are so many different channels, whether that's because of customer acquisition and, companies are acquiring new companies. Those companies have their own data sources and their own platforms. And so I think a lot of that journey is just a consolidation of data and providing, the ability to move that into a single location. And so one of the conversations that we had was with a customer who was explaining that they were 6 months into a journey, a data transformation journey, and they figured they had about 18 more months in order to complete that. Well, the product that we worked on with them and within the analytics space was really about moving their data to a single data lake within AWS. And then once that data was there, that was like a 3-month journey instead of, an 18-month journey. And so again, that speed of innovation and how we really kind of meet customers where they are. Don't think that all the heavy lifting has to be done. If it's not differentiated and it's not core to your business, we encourage our customers to use the repeated patterns. Part of why these events are so exciting is because we get to talk to customers directly and hear, the same pattern of problems. It's, if we could only do this, or if we could only do that, we think we could go so much faster. And so then we can take those back as a service team and as a product team, as you know, and then really build on those insights to figure out not how to build the core business for the customer, but to do those things that help them get to innovation faster.
Yeah, and talking about meeting customers where they are, there are a lot of channels, and how does the IML apply across channels or by individual specific channels?
Yeah, I mean, AI/ML is not a new space for AWS. I mean, if you think about, Pete mentioned all the different areas of business that we're in, and so if you think about the commercial business or AWS directly, like this is a journey that we've been on for over 20 years as Amazon, and so I think as each of these channels come up, obviously, what you need to do for an email channel or an SMS channel is different than what you want to do for a voice channel. But that ongoing innovation and understanding that the customers and the customer engagement is not about single channels, but it really is about unifying all of those channels into a single journey. That's, I think, what we're seeing is that what's important is being able to have an email journey, a voice journey, and understanding how all those pieces come together to really form the complete customer journey. And so obviously it varies, sometimes it's predictive, sometimes it's just about understanding that what the engagements that customer had in this interaction, how they relate to those, but getting that data together, like I said, in a single place, and then being able to tell those stories is, I think, key to what AI/ML looks like in each of those different journey points.
Right. And what about cross-channel? So is it specific to one channel, or how should people think about cross-channel or multi-channel communications, more than one channel at the same time?
Well, I think that's really, I mean, as much as we're trying to meet customers where they are, everyone is trying to meet their customers where they are. And so whether that engagement, starts in an asynchronous channel and then moves to synchronous, or in some cases, like you and I have talked about, that sometimes you don't necessarily thinking about quote unquote downgrading your communication, but sometimes you might be in a situation where you started an engagement on voice, and then you actually want to move it to text because you're in a crowded environment, or you want to actually be able to go from one modality to another and one channel to another. And you want that to be seamless. And I think, a lot of the customer frustration that they feel is you have an identity. You are a person and you've presented that to someone. And the idea that information isn't carried over is incredibly frustrating. And so like in these customer engagement conversations, I think that's what we hear again and again is, we know the data's there, we just don't necessarily have the right data at the right time in the right place. And so that kind of connective tissue of saying, okay, we have the data, we have the person, how do we put these things together so that there's that continuity for the customer journey? That's really about the stories that we're trying to help. It's often not a lack of data, it's just there's so much data, how do you actually weave those stories together?
Yeah, yeah. Makes sense. And I think there is a lot of sessions and conversations, one before us, OpenAI. So what is the role that Gen AI and large language models can play in our space, in communications and voice AI?
Yeah, as we've started to talk about, Gen AI at AWS, and obviously this is like a huge topic. You can't really go anywhere without having that conversation these days. But I think what has been interesting to me as I've thought about how AWS is thinking specifically about Gen AI is really that it's not very different from the approach that we've taken through kind of moving to the cloud in general. It's the idea of democratization in the Gen AI space. If you think about Gen AI, instead of just being a thing, it's really more of a layer cake. We kind of think of this full stack experience. If you know about what Gen AI or what Amazon and AWS are doing in Gen AI, it starts all the way at the bottom layer, even on those silicon chips. So obviously that inference and what has to be powered, there's research and work being done by AWS within that very foundational layer. Maybe foundational isn't the right word, since I'm going to start to talk about foundational models in just a minute. But that very base layer of being able to, it starts with the compute, it starts with the silicon, it starts with that kind of core piece of it. And then you think about that next layer, that building up of, okay, well, what about the foundational models? What about the large learning models? And how are customers going to want to interact with those? And the reality is again, it should be about customer choice. While Amazon does have large foundational models of their own, like Titan, like those will be available and those will be offered to customers. But really that kind of second layer, Bedrock is the service that's available from AWS, kind of foundational models as a service, knowing that customers, not all customers are going to want to or be able to build their own large language models or their own foundational models. How do we help all customers have access to those large language models and then be able to customize them and build on them for their own uses? And then finally, there is that application layer. And while Amazon has built some, Code Whisperer was one of the early developer services that was built to help developers write code faster. That's an application that is available from AWS. But I think more importantly, it's the ability for all of our customers then to build those applications. I think in the long term, you're not going to see Amazon being the ones that are building all the applications, but they are providing that environment for innovation to happen and for all those applications to be built.
For the future of digital interaction, so what are some of the promising technologies and use cases or scenarios that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I think that is why these conferences are always fun, is because it's exactly what I just said. I don't believe that we will build all those applications, that we will build all those journeys, but what we will hopefully do is continue to work with customers who are building in that space, who are the pharmaceutical experts, who are the engineering or the travel experts, who are education experts. And so all those different verticals, like those conversations are incredibly inspiring for customers because I think they're closer to the space. People in those different industries know their customers way better than we could. However, I do think there's some commonalities that we can help customers really say, this is a repeated pattern that we're seeing. All customers want to have a more customized interaction. How do we help our customers build those customized interactions? How do you learn from the data, and how do we create more right time, right place moments? I think that's a big piece of it, is really having those opportunities for the customer, the information that's available to really meet with the customer at the right time, and quite frankly, to pull all those pieces together.
Great. We have one audience question also, a quick one. I think there's just one. If you have any questions, please do use the app. How can digital interactions be designed to be more inclusive and accessible to people of diverse abilities and backgrounds?
Yeah. I think that is back to this information is power piece, which is if you have already identified, based on a customer profile, what a customer needs, just being able to use that information to then customize an experience so that you've already started the digital journey with the knowledge that you have about that customer. And so to me, again, it's kind of this theme of we do talk to customers who, whether it's in the learning management space or hearing and aiding those that might have limitations or disabilities that need to be addressed. How do we really get that information? If you know that about your customer, how do we make sure that their digital journey starts with you having that knowledge?
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, great. Don't see any other questions. But yeah, just elaborating on that a little bit, I think it's important to start with the use case in mind first, because if the use case demands a visual experience or a touch screen experience or an audio experience, there is those are the fundamentals that we start and then go down the track. So I think we are sort of on time here. Last question, if somebody wants to work with AWS, how do they get started working with us?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously feel free to reach directly out. I think there's contact information, and we've got to meet several people throughout the conference. And then also reaching out through the partner network. A lot of the conversations that we have actually start with partners who are engaged with a customer and they're trying to build a solution, and I think that's another way to reach out. Obviously, a lot of people are already engaged with AWS, and there's an account team, and so that's another way to reach out directly, through your account team. So,
okay, great. So yeah, I think the last thing I would say is, I don't know if we are probably the last session here, but would love to meet you all individually if we can. We are still here. We're going to hang out. But thank you so much to everyone for participating and the team which has organized this amazing conference. We had a lot of fun here, and hopefully the interactions will continue. Thank you so much.
Yeah.